Hello, Berkeley. I'm Tori Mathis, your Director of Communications, and continuing with our behind-the-scenes look of our budget process and video series, I have Matt Church, our Library Director with us today. How are you, Matt?
Great. How are you doing, Tori?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So as you know, today we're kind of just here to talk about, a peek or a sneak peek on, what happens with the library. How does that process work, and what are your goals this year for our budget?
Sure. One of the most important aspects of the budget for us is keeping fresh and new materials on the shelf for the public. That's one of our core functions here, to make sure that we have new books, DVDs, other things for you to check out here. So that's priority one. We lead with that. Programming is another big element of what we do. And then on top of that, we need a nice, modern, up-to-date facility to serve the public as well. So updates to the facility are pretty instrumental, budget year to budget year, just in keeping the building in good shape.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I'd love to hear from you. And just as a fellow library lover myself, a former reader, I imagine the world surrounding reading, I guess, in an umbrella of a sense for the public library systems in general has really changed, wouldn't you say? I know obviously pre-COVID, you guys were already moving in that direction from a digital standpoint, but COVID very much forced everyone into that space. I'd love to hear from you and your perspective on what that looked like as we transitioned back out of COVID.
Yeah. The core to us has always been printed and physical materials, but offering up digital services is huge. So we were already offering a couple of digital services, and then during COVID, hopped on to offer 2 additional digital services. So we have a pretty robust offering. It's always kind of a balancing act between the print, the tangible things that you can hold, and the digital access. And we've seen good usage in both of those camps. So we want to continue to develop those collections and have good number of things available for people.
Sure, yeah. And I know, you mentioned just the facility and the community space as a whole. We briefly spoke about it partially during Teresa's Parks and Recreation, about the importance of outdoor space and what it does for mental health and physical health. But another key aspect, I think, a lot of people forget about is just having community gathering spaces, regardless of just outdoor spaces. And I know from, while I don't get to be in your building every day, I'm sure you've seen it, that just having that community gathering space is very critical for a community as well. Can you kind of expand on what your experience has been since you've been a director, since you're one of our senior members, but then just as of late, based on the transitions we've made?
Yeah, I mean, the library is a safe and open space for people to come and use, a public building. So we have people who come in daily to read the newspaper, and that's their safe haven to come here and be comfortable. We have people coming to kind of set up shop and work remotely from the library for the day. We have tutors meeting at the library after school. We have groups of middle school and high school kids coming after school and studying, working on projects. So it's important that we provide space for all of that. We also have story times weekly, drop-in baby play sessions, and then we just have our meeting room for community events as well. So it's really a space for people to connect and unplug if they want, or have space alone if they want as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so then I guess I want to ask, what's those priority action items or ticket items that, when you were sitting down, as we all were at the beginning of January, as I jokingly say, getting down to the numbers, no pun intended, to talk about, okay, what are my priorities? What are my goals this year? And why were those your goals this year?
Yeah. Looking ahead for the upcoming budget year, 2 big projects would be replacing the document scanner that we have here for public use. Our
Mhm.
machine is about 10 years old.
Wow.
The software is no longer supported. The computer itself needs to be updated. So that would be a really great thing for us to be able to do. It is something that's used pretty heavily by the public. If you need to digitize something and send it or scan photos and things like that, it's good to have a machine like that
Mhm.
available. We'd also be looking at expanding our security camera system so that we
Mhm.
can better monitor outside of the building. We have pretty good coverage inside the building, but would be interested in kind of having extra eyes in the library parking lot and surrounding area as well.
Sure. Yeah. So with the first one, I think you bring up a good reminder for everyone that when you talk about accessibility, I think a lot of us forget that not everybody has the internet at home, not everybody has a printer at home or a computer at home. Um, so even me as a learning lesson, working for the city, I didn't even know how frequently that is used, which I can see being a key piece. And then the other thing, that you brought up, which I think is a great point to call out, is that something like security cameras, I imagine that's not just done in a bubble. You work with public safety with respect to that, and public works, I imagine, in terms of placement and maintenance, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so staying current in those areas is super important. We
Mm-hmm.
have public computers available for people too, because as you said, not everyone has access at home. We have some people who come in every day just to check their email. They don't have a computer at home. They don't have access at home. So we're able to provide that for them.
Great. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so, for my curiosity and, just for, a better understanding with the library, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the recreation department, they have what's called a rec revolving fund, and then that's usually done in partnership with the general fund, whereas the rec revolving fund, the programs pay for themselves, but it doesn't necessarily pay for the maintenance or the upkeep or even personnel. Does the library have anything similar to that we could share with the community, or is your funds strictly from the operating budget?
We're from the operating budget. We do receive a lot of support from the Friends of the Library. So that's a nonprofit, volunteer driven group. They provide funding for the majority of our programs. So
Oh, cool.
anytime we bring in a special presenter, history lecture, kids programs, any of the take home kits, that's all sponsored through the Friends and the donations they receive. So um, we're grateful for their support and wouldn't be
Absolutely.
able to do a number of things that we do for the community without them.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. So I guess kind of jumping into the next, ticket item, and it's something that, we talk about constantly, when it comes to funding, is obviously we're going for a Headley override millage, and we'd rather just get right up in front of it. I'm sharing this with the community so that they know that we're thinking of this and planning ahead for it. In the past couple of years, we've had to defer some items. Obviously, we've had some great successes that allowed us to complete projects faster because everything was shut down. But that didn't mean that we still didn't feel the effects of that on top of just the natural effects on how Headley works. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, from the library's point of view, on what has been deferred thus far, and depending on how things go, how are you planning and anticipating managing those expectations and those needs, or just maintaining services with the Headley on all of our minds?
Sure. Yeah. I think we're one of the buildings that's in pretty good shape
Yeah.
physically, and we are in that condition
Mhm.
because we've continued to invest in the building
Mhm.
year after year, so that we have stayed up to date and looking good, and just generally like overall in
Mhm.
good facility shape. So that investment has been really helpful for us, so that we're not falling far behind just in terms of keeping up with things. One project that's gotten kicked down the road a few times here, HVAC replacement
Mhm.
project is a big thing that is currently moving forward. Very grateful for that. Small things like furniture reupholstery
Mhm.
has gotten deferred several years. So, we have to set certain projects aside or
Yeah.
scale back certain projects, and that's just kind of been the nature of it.
Sure. Yeah. And I'd imagine it's the same boat for this year, as far
Yeah,
as types of projects. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
I mean, if we need to tighten things up, then we can certainly do that. We have some services that are great and wonderful services, but things like the Wi-Fi lending hotspots, that would probably be something that may or may not be able to continue,
Yeah.
um, given the funding that's available.
No, absolutely. And completely understandable, depending on and I know you're a resident, it's something that you're looking at, even at your own home on what this looks like. Um, and I know you take that into your work, which I appreciate. And with
Sure.
that, I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the community as far as, that behind the curtain, that peak of what this, what the library does and just the value that it provides to the community?
Yeah, I love and appreciate that we have stayed relevant as a institution, as a department in the city, that we've been able to grow and expand in new ways to meet the evolving needs of the community. It's just really great to connect with people in that way and feel like we're the right service for them, we're the right place for them. It's just exciting to be part of that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That's all the time we have and all the questions I had for you at this moment. For those of us that are watching and continuing with this series, you can always check out our YouTube channel, or you can visit our website to learn more about the Headley Override Millage. There you'll find more information about the history of Headley and all the fun things that go in beyond that, as well as a full breakdown of, kind of what the city's looking at, as well as how funds will be spent. That URL link is www.berkleymish.org/millage. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for your time today, Matt.
All right, thanks, Tori.